So guys, starting us off is there's 2 copies of Ash Blossom Joy Springs. Fantastic hand trap. Should your opponent do anything like summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the grave, or send a card from or add a card from the deck to the hand, it just shuts them down. Really great going second card as well. Now we are running that lone Buster Dragon Destructive Sword. However, this is a Garnet. Realistically, you do not want to see it, but even if you do, Union Carrier can equip it from your hand. So if the situation arises or need be, you can still use it. The reason we do this is because going first, you can initiate a lock with Union Carrier and anyone on base of your Frightfurs, and you can just lock your opponent out of the extra deck. Onto Egypt Chain, guys. Mandatory, you need 3. Chain is one of the best engines we have in this game. At the time of this recording, we do not have the new support, so unfortunately we don't have the new cards to put in, so we have to rely on like the older cards. So when Chain, guys, should you declare an attack with it, you can add Edge Imp Chain from your deck to your hand, which is kind of nice. However, if this card is sent from the field or hand to the graveyard, you can add any Frightfur card from your deck to your hand, being Frightfur Fusion and Frightfur Patchwork. Both are really great. And guys, for your little combo to shut, basically to do a Winder and Dingirsu lock, all you need is an Edge Imp Chain, a dog, or a dog and a Frightfur Patchwork. As long as you have access to Chain and Dog, you can do our lock. Using Edge Imp Sabers, guys, is the other Edge Imp we need, because a few fusions such as Wolf and Tiger require you to use Sabers. It's actually not a bad one. It's kind of the weaker one out of the 2, but it's still really great. So it has a graveyard effect where you can just discard, where you can place any card in your hand back at the top of the deck. That way you can special summon this card from your graveyard. Really great, especially if you want to go into either like some link plays, because you just obviously just recur it and do stuff with that. I have decided to cut out 1 bear. Don't hate me for this. The reason I cut out a bear is because I needed space for Nibiru, and I decided cutting out a bear was kind of the best way, because its hand effect is you can send it to the graveyard to set a toy vendor directly from your deck. However, we have got a lot of cards already to get Toy Vendor and dump it in the graveyard. That's why I decided to cut that beard down to 2. If you want to, you can just simply cut back out of Nibiru and run this card at 3. And we're running that lone copy of Fluffle Cat. It's not the best one, but you run it if should you haven't really got a lot of polymerizations. Because if Cat is in your hand, if Cat is using fusion material, you can target a polymerization in your grave and add it back to your hand. That way, a simple polymerization in your hand counts as basically 2, because you just recycle it with Fluffle Cat. Fluffle Dog, guys, when it's normal special summons, you get to add a Edge Imp Sabers or any Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand. Really great, because the card you're realistically going to search, especially if you're having to go first, is Sheep, because then you're able to go into our 2 card combo to go into Winder and Dingirsu. Using Fluffle Penguin, guys, because Penguin, upon being fusion summoned, it's kind of like the Fluffle version of Liquid Soldier, where if obviously you use it as a fusion material, you get to draw 2 cards, then discard 1. Really great, because you can just draw more combo extenders, and also if you do summon it, you can special summon a Fluffle from your hand. Then Fluffle Sheep, guys, if you control any Fluffle monster, get special summon this little bad boy, which is actually great for link plays, and you can return a Fluffle you control back to your hand, then special summon an Edge Imp monster from your hand or grave. So this can special summon Chain or Sabers from the graveyard, so you can just keep recycling their plays. Finally, Fluffle Wings. I decided to cut this down to 2, but again, you could easily run Fluffle Wings because it's so easy to get into the graveyard and it's so easy to search as well. If this card's in the grave, you basically send a Toy Vendor from your side of the field to the graveyard to draw a card. Then you get to banish another Fluffle in your graveyard to draw another card, and then you get to and then, because Toy Vendor was went to the graveyard, you get to search a Fluffle monster. So by playing Fluffle Wings' ability, you legit go from like 0 cards to 3. So it's really great. And then I've decided to add the 2 copies of Nibiru's, because again, 9 times out of 10 you would like to go second in this deck. Doesn't mean obviously you can go first, but going second Nibiru is where it's kind of at. So if your opponent would normal or special win 5 or more times in a turn, you basically tribute as many monsters as many face-up monsters as possible, slap down that Nibiru. Against combo decks as well, it really hurts them, because most combo decks, they either don't have a monster negate or they get the monster negate after 5 turns. So unless your opponent can play around Nibiru, they have legit kind of like lost. And then guys, we have got 2 copies of Call by the Grave, because absolutely great, because logistically in your opening combo, especially if you're forced to go first, you don't really want the chain or the dog's effects to be negated. Yes, it can't shut down Gamma or Imperm, but it still can shut down basically the Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogres. Using 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, because obviously you just send Toy Vendor to the graveyard to proc Toy Vendor's ability. Using that one lone copy of Frightful Fusion, you don't need more than one. Frightful Fusion, you legit just get special. It's like the Frightful version of Miracle Fusion. You get to summon a Frightful monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters either from your hand, either from the field or graveyard. And because it has Frightful in its name, it is searchable with Chain. And then 3 copies of Frightful Patchwork. It basically gets to add any Edge Imp monster and a Polymerization directly from your hand. And again, because it has Frightful in its name, it's searchable with an Edge Imp Chain. Then Instant Fusion, guys, because if you either hard draw Instant Fusion or if you have Anaconda, you can go into Dingirsu and use Instant Fusion with Anaconda, or if you hard draw it, to special summon Winder. Between Winder and Dingirsu, you have a nice little lock, which prevents your opponent from special summoning only once. Can cripple a lot of decks. Using 3 copies of Polymerization, obviously Fusion Summon, searchable with Frightful Patchwork, and it's really helpful. Super Polymerization we're using as well, just because a lot of them, like, we are running some fusion monsters that obviously we can use really easily, like Dragon's Repelia, Starving Venom. A lot of our fusions are actually Dark Attribute, so it really comes into play with Super Polymerization. And obviously if your opponent has like 2 Dark Attributes, which is the most common type, you can just steal your opponent's monsters to go into Starving Venom or Dragon's Repelia. Then we're using 3 copies of Toy Vendor, absolutely mandatory. Toy Vendor, guys, it's kind of search effect is really bad, but sending it to the graveyard is absolutely OP. So you can discard any cards you want, so you can kind of like force Wings to be in the graveyard, and then if you draw a Fluffle monster, you get special summon any monster from your hand, which is kind of sweet. If this card is sent from the field to the grave, you get to add either Sabers or Fluff or any Fluffle from your deck to your hand, and that effect isn't a once per turn. So say for instance you pitch one with Foolish Burial Goods, you get pitch a Toy Vendor, you get to add a Fluffle. Say you've already got a Toy Vendor on the field and you played Twin Twisters and destroyed your other Toy Vendor, yet again you get to search out another monster because it's not a once per turn. And then 3 copies of Twin Twisters, because it destroys back row removal, guys, and it destroys our own Toy Vendor. Side 3 was the most optimal one because you really want to see it, and back row removal is never really bad. It outs Mystic Mine, outs like a lot of Floodgates, like Ryro Warlords, and again, like I say, you can destroy your own Toy Vendor, so you can like proc its own ability during your turn. Using, guys, on the extra deck, we are running 1 copy of El Shaddai Winder. We special summon Winder through Instant Fusion simply because it's level 5 or lower monster. Winder is a really good card because both players can only special summon once as long as she's face up on the field, and she can't be destroyed by card effects. So that means, guys, with Winder and Dingirsu would protect Winder from being destroyed by Instant Fusion. So then during your opponent's turn, they legit can't even out Winder unless they basically have like a Kaiju or bounce Winder back into the deck. Because if they try to destroy Winder by battle, Dingirsu will protect Winder, and Winder just basically makes it so your opponent can only special summon once, which just shut down a lot of decks. On some Frightfuls, guys, we're running 2 Kraken. Kraken is absolutely mandatory and absolutely great. He basically is the really generic. You need any Edge Imp monster and any Fluffle, so that means you can use both Chain and Sabers to go into this card. And you can target one monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. Yes, it targets, however, it doesn't destroy the card, it just sends it. It's like a Dingirsu, but kind of weaker because obviously Dingirsu doesn't target, but it gets around any card that says can't be destroyed by battle or by card effects, so it's really great. It can't attack the turn. It can't attack the turn directly. However, if you send him to the graveyard, then resurrect at the same Kraken, that effect no longer applies. So then he can attack, and he can attack twice during each battle phase. Using 2 copies of Sabertooth, right, guys? If you're going second and you have access to Sabertooth and Kraken, just between these 2 monsters, you have enough for an OTK, because Sabertooth will increase all Frightful monsters you control by 400 attack. That does include itself. So that means between Sabretooth and Kraken, you can perform an OTK, which is bang on 8,000 attack points. And if this card, guys, if Fusion Summoned, get special a Frightful from the graveyard, which is really nice. Also, if you use 3 or more materials, this card can't be destroyed by battle by card effects. Realistically, Sabretooth is the best target you want to equip your Buster Blader to, or your Buster Dragon to, because then that way you've got a monster that can't be destroyed by battle by card effects and is preventing your opponent out of the extra deck. We are using that lone copy of Fight for Sheep. Again, you can summon Sheep with instant fusion, and not is any monster, well, it's any chain with any Fluffle monster. If this card attacks, your opponent can't activate spell or traps, really great. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or by your opponent's card effect, you can basically just resummon it back to the field and it gains 800 attack points. So Sheep is really annoying to out. 2 copies of Fright for Tiger. Again, you need Sabers and any one of your Fluffles. If this card is special wins, you get to destroy cards your opponent has on the field equal to the amount of fusion materials that you used, and then you destroy them. So this guy can board wipe really easily, and all Frightfurs you control will gain 300 attack for each Fluffle and Frightful monster you control. So between Tigers and Sabretooth, your monsters get crazy amount of attack points. Frightful Wolf, because he's good for fusion summoning. Again, Sabers in any amount of Fluffles. This card can attack the same. This card gains an additional attack for each fusion material that you used. So that means the more fusion materials you use, the more Wolf is going to OTK your opponent. We're using 1 copy of Drago Sepelia because we are running Super Polymerization. Any one of your Fluffles will work with any Dark monster. So that means you could even run Winder with any one of your opponent's monsters should Winder serve a usefulness. You know what I mean? Drago Sepelia. Drago Sepelia is like It's like Imperm, but in monster form. So you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. This is the quick effect. It gains a Predator counter. As long as it has a Predator counter, it can't use its special abilities. And then we are using a copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, the best generic dark to go into. You need 2 dark monsters, kind of really easy with your Frightfurs and your chains. And also you can use your opponent's monsters as well if you use Super Polymerization. This card, if it leaves the field or is destroyed, will basically nuke your opponent's special summon monsters. Really great. Using Dingirsu, because Dingirsu is really easy to go into with Kraken and Sabretooth. You literally just go into Kraken, fusion summon to Sabretooth, overlay both of them into Dingirsu. Dingirsu will protect Winder if you are going first, guys. If not, you could just use Dingirsu to clear any board, which is really nice. Because if Dingirsu is special summoned, you can send 1 card your opponent controls straight to the graveyard. That card does Dingirsu doesn't target, and it doesn't destroy, so you can out near enough any card. We are using Cross Sheep, guys, because Cross Sheep is mandatory in our combo. So what you would do is have Sheep and Chain. You would link them both into Cross Sheep. Then Chain's ability to activate, add in Fright for Patchwork. You then summon a monster next, or you then use your fusion monster to go next to Cross Sheep's Link Arrow. Because if a fusion is summoned next to Cross Sheep's Link Arrow, get special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. So you just special summon a monster, you use Cross Sheep and the other monster that you and the monster you resurrected. Then you go into Anaconda for free. Anaconda, guys, you can basically pay 2,000 life points to send any fusion or polymerization from our deck to the graveyard. So that means we can send Super Poly, normal polymerization, Fright for Fusion, and do whatever you want, depending on the situation. And also, Predaplant Anaconda can use its other ability. We can target 1 monster on the field and make it dark. So that way you can just force any opponent your opponent has to, or any monster your opponent has to make it a dark attribute. Use Anaconda's ability to send Super Poly, you go into Starving Venom. And finally, we're using Union Carrier to equip our Sabretooth or any one of your dark attribute monsters, really. And really, because you equip them with your Dragon Buster Sword, so then it locks them out of the extra decks. The main reason we run it, and it is a really annoying combo. And that's it for the deck, guys. I kind of have gone through it kind of quick, but that's because I have done this deck before. I've only took out a few cards out of the extra deck and then 2 cards out of the main deck. But nevertheless, guys, it is so fun to play with Fluffles again. Stay tuned for the replays. You're really going to enjoy them because a lot of the time we did go first, so you get to see the plays that you get going first. Again, Fluffles are better going second. They're not better going first, so you see what I mean. And guys, if you enjoy Fluffle, stay tuned for at Ignistars. They are coming next because that's what you guys agreed on. So yeah guys, if you enjoyed this deck, hit that thumbs up and make sure subscribing. Either one does help part this channel grow. And without any further ado guys, have a great time, have a great day or night, especially in these dark times ahead of us. So take care, goodbye.